course there's the scary times in your life too. When I was a little tacker, I was just 6 years old. I was playing outside the house in Auckland there, just having a bit of fun playing rugby, and suddenly this black cloud sort of came out of nowhere, went right down the street, just completely covered the whole street, and it was a weird black cloud, and suddenly, before I knew it, I could see it was an enormous swarm of bees, millions and millions of bees, and before I had time to do anything, I had to stand there and push myself against the side of the house. I had nowhere to run. It was just too late. And my mum, she screaming out the window at me, "Mike, do not move, stand completely still." And I had to stand completely still. I couldn't move an inch. I couldn't move a muscle for half an hour. I had to stand there. They were in my ears, in my nose. I was completely covered with hundreds and hundreds of bees from head to toe. And guess what? I was only 6 years old, man. I tell you, that was very scary. But of course there was the more responsible side of life too, where I used to have to go to school every day. My dad didn't want to run me down the hill in his car. It was not his job, he reckoned, education department's job. So he bought me a bike. So when I was 13 I started to bike down the Brendo and all the way to Waipu on my bike. Going down the hill was fantastic. Coming up, well, it was a little bit harder, but I would grab hold of the back of a petrol tanker like this and get towed all the way up the hill. Trouble is, halfway up there was an incline, and as the truck went down the incline, I'd start to get the speed wobbles, but I would never let go. And sometimes I got home after dark, but never mind. It was fun. I used to love going down the hill. But inevitably my bike would break down, get a puncture one day and a puncture the next day and so forth, until in the end I couldn't fix the punctures. So I had to find an alternative way to get to school. So one day I just walked down the driveway, stuck my thumb out, and I started hitchhiking to school. I just turned 14, hitchhiking on the main road, pretty lonely some mornings, not a lot of traffic. Some mornings I get there at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at school. I didn't even bother sometimes, I just go straight onto the beach. Oh dear, I got caned a couple of times, but that's life. Well, of course I grew up in New Zealand, and the national sport over there is rugby union. And I had a pretty good grounding in that because my dad, he was a good rugby player. Here he is, he played for Hikarangi in 1931. He was also captain of St Patrick's College in 1935, and he also played for the Auckland Maris team in 1940. He also represented North Auckland in provincial rugby, and was also nominated for the Auckland provincial rugby team. My dad was a great rugby player. And of course I played rugby myself, but at much lower levels than my dad, of course. Played for the Waipu school first 15 at fullback, played for Aramatea and Horahora when I was 18, Horahora first grade in Whangarei. Believe it or not, my greatest opponent when I was 14 or 15, who was a great rugby player in North Auckland, was a guy called David Fitzpatrick from Mangaroto. He played breakaway. Also went on to have a good surfing time with him in my late teens. We had fun together surfing. So, but you didn't know he was a good rugby player too. Of course, I've been a bit of a league fan all my life as well, simply because I grew up around the league boys. Grew up at Ruakaka, and the Takahiwai boys were obviously rugby league fans. Guys like Harry Clyde, Apples Rata, who else, Les Perry, Dave Moringa, those sort of guys all played rugby league, so actually I ended up a rugby league fan, and of course follow the Warriors, why wouldn't I, being a New Zealander. But I must admit I am a Cowboys fan. And the reason I'm a Cowboys fan is because I just love Matty Bowen. I think he's a great rugby league player. And of course, here's a photo of my school days, and a lot of the guys I used to play rugby with in those days. We used to play lunchtime. We used to love playing rugby at lunchtimes. Les Mackay, Bill Garrity, Mervyn Johnson, Graham Herbert, all these tough guys I used to play rugby with. Murray McLean, they're all good rugby players. But there was two quickies. One was Ian Todd and the other one was Brian Sullivan. Here they are here. Brian was a bit of a tough man to play rugby with. He was a great rugby player. And there was lots of guys here that I used to play different sports with, but this guy here now, I can't remember whether he played any sport or not, but gee, looks like he'd be a good salesman, doesn't he? I mean, this guy could sell you records, I'm sure. What's his name again? Dave Ryan, that's right.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.
Opinion. Well, as we're discussing the 50s and 60s, the person that comes to mind is Mickey Dora. Now, people saw Mickey in lots of different ways: selfish, unique, arrogant, contentious, but in my view, his greatest strength was that he was a purist. He was the real purist, and we admired him for that, and that's a rare quality to have in a surfer today. And I thought it was a very timely moment when Greg Knoll stood by his bedside when he was dying and said those last words to him, "I love you, man," because he was really saying that on behalf of the whole surfing community that loved Mickey. And there are many that I know that love Mickey. I had the greatest admiration for him. Contentious he may have been, but we still loved him for who he was. He was the relentless purist. Is that how you saw him? Because that's certainly how I saw him.